Welcome back to Coffee and Conversation. As you can see, we have a cat. It rained terribly today. The sun is out, shining, it's beautiful right now. But about 2 hours ago, it was pouring rain. Audie was unhappy. He's grateful now because he did complain to me about the rain. You know, it was terrible. He started making noises. And the rain stopped, which he thinks I did. I didn't. I have nothing to do with the weather. I am not weather police. But he is expressing his gratitude. And unfortunately, he's going to walk away from this experience thinking to himself, oh yeah, my mommy is the rain boss. So the next time it rains, he's going to figure it's my job to deal with it. But he is out, he is being sociable, mostly because he's being grateful. So I thought we would enjoy it while we can. And I know you can't hear him because the microphone is not strong enough to pick this up. But he is purring his little kitty brains out. And because he's looking out the window, he's come to realize that it's a sunny day after all that rain. So we are going to break quickly for the intro. I'm going to let this little bad boy go out, enjoy the sunshine. He probably won't go out into the yard or, never mind the neighbors' yards because it's all wet out there. But he will, I'm sure, take a little nap on the porch railing, which is... And there are places for him to sleep on the porch. I have 2 patio tables, 4 chairs. The porch steps are carpeted. And still, he perches himself on the rail and goes to sleep there. I don't get it. He's not a normal cat. My cat is broken. All right, turn around and say hi to everybody. Come on. No. No, let them see your pretty little cat face. No, well, okay. We're determined not to let anybody see our cat face. Okay. Anyway, I'm going to go take him out. Be right back. Well, before I get into the actual topic of this video, I wanted to take a moment and address a question from yesterday's video. Now, yesterday's video was on shoe care and shoe maintenance, and everybody seems to really dislike that as a topic. As I mentioned yesterday, the viewership on those videos are among the lowest of any videos I make. But I'm still going to keep doing it because, well, I need to. And the reason I need to is foot care and shoe care are inextricably linked. The older you get, the more important foot care becomes. And to neglect that, for me, to neglect bringing it to your attention periodically would be inexcusable. So, yeah, I'm going to keep doing it. And if 5 people watch, oh well. That's 5 people. Who knows? Maybe other people will get bored one day and tune it in and say, oh, I didn't know that. I think I'm going to start taking care of my shoes. That's my hope. Well, one of our viewers had asked about the interior of your shoes. Now, she said that she wears shoes without socks at least some of the time. I didn't get a clear sense of how often she does this, if it's only when she's wearing sandals, but some portion of her time is spent in shoes without socks. Now, if you look at the population as a whole, I will tell you that some portion of the population will get into trouble anytime they wear shoes without socks. They take the shoes off, and they start to smell really bad. Most of the population has encountered this problem occasionally, depending on whether or not it's hot outside, whether or not you're the kind of person who tends to perspire, whether or not you are wearing shoes made out of polyurethane or rubber or something that is going to basically suffocate your feet, not allow them to breathe, not allow any moisture or odors to dissipate. So to say this is an unimportant problem, it would not be true. It is a problem that virtually every one of us has faced at least once in our lifetimes. I find that if I'm wearing, like I said, polyurethane shoes, I don't wear them anymore because of this. But back in the days when I was wearing those, fake leather, high-heeled shoes, oh yeah, I would come home from work, I would kick those shoes off, and I would think, I need to burn them. This is not okay. And mind you, I was wearing them with nylon stockings, but again, nylon stockings are not absorbent. They are not going to do anything to prevent perspiration or odor or whatever from creeping into the shoes. So I see this as a problem. For some people, it's a very serious problem. This really has an impact on their quality of life. For others, it may be nothing more than an occasional inconvenience. So that's why I decided we have to talk about this. And I am going to give you the easiest trick in the world for sanitizing your shoes. And when I tell you this, well, actually when I explain it to you, I know you're going to be sitting back saying, I can't believe I didn't think of this myself. Take your shoes, pop them in a paper bag, and stick them in the freezer overnight. All of the bacteria will be killed. It will be frozen to death. And remember, odor comes from bacteria. Just do that. You're probably thinking, but my shoes do not want to be frozen. Really? I imagine people in Florida and Southern California might be thinking that. But for those of us in the rest of the world where we have winter and we wear our shoes in the winter, we all know, yeah, your shoes can take sub-freezing temperatures. Some of your shoes are specifically designed for sub-freezing temperatures. Just kick them into the freezer. That will resolve your problem. Because once the bacteria is eliminated, the odor is gone. So I would say that is the one easiest tip. There are other tips you can do too. I have found Febreze very useful. Just you spritz it in your shoes and walk away. And if you don't saturate your shoes, just a little spritz, you walk away 20 minutes later, the shoes smell fine. Other things will do it too. Things like Lysol spray. And again, you don't need to saturate them. Lysol spray will actually kill the bacteria. Febreze, I think, doesn't do anything except mask it with a pleasant smell. But there are so many things you can do. But again, the easiest way to do it is freezer. Just like no work involved in that. You pick up your shoes, you throw them in the freezer, you shut the door, and you don't come back for 12 hours. Isn't that the easiest thing you can imagine? And yes, your shoes are perfectly safe in the freezer. They are designed to protect your feet from winter temperatures. Even the sandals will be fine in the freezer. But I didn't want to get completely distracted on this, but I did want to throw this out because I know it is a problem for some people, and I couldn't feel good if I withheld such a simple and painless tactic for ridding yourself of the bad foot odor. So I'll give you that for a starter, and then at some point in the future, because I'm not going to inundate you with foot care, shoe care issues right now. We've already had our shoe care video yesterday. I'll wait a while longer before I throw another one at you. When I do, I will make an effort to deal with how to care for the interior of your shoes as well. A lot of people don't go into that because It's not the part of your shoe that is seen, therefore it's not the part of your shoe that is glamorous, therefore it is not the part of your shoe that will get you views on YouTube. All right, so moving on to our main topic. I spoke with you about my sweater, and this was the sweater that I had purchased based on this picture in the online catalog from the sweater company, and I thought, oh, this is so cute. I really, 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 really want this. And when I got it, I realized it did not look on me the way it looked in that catalog. And I will show you, because I actually filmed the whole process, and it just took me a while to edit the film, but it didn't look like that on me. And I hated the sweater. It was in my closet. I would look at this thing and say, I can't believe I paid $100 for this and I've never worn it once. And in fact, I had not. I had tried it on, decided I did not like it, and never worn it since then. Just, ugh. And it was a constant source of irritation for me, because when I would see it, I would feel guilty for spending money on something I wasn't wearing. I would feel irritated that this item had so much promise. I saw it in the catalog and it was just so pretty, and why doesn't it look pretty on me? And then that whole litany of, yeah, well, you're not 18 anymore, get over it. And that's a lot of self-defeating thought. So I had to do something about it, and I had relegated it to just around the house wearing. I thought, I'll pull this out, I'll at least get my money's worth out of it, I will wear it around the house. And that's where our story begins. So let's take a look at this short little video. So I've had this sweater for about a year and a half, maybe a little longer. I bought it sometime in 2023, probably close to the end of the year. I saw it in the online catalog and I thought it was very cute. However, it does not fit me the same way it fit the model. With the model, it overlapped fully. With me, oh no. No, it's like hanging loose. I think it kind of makes me look pregnant, you know. And I also didn't like the collar once I put it on. I don't like things up around my neck to begin with, but this collar was just not working for me. So I decided it was going to be my around the house sweater, because I paid $100 for this bugger and I was not going to leave it sitting in the closet, just staring at me, reprimanding me every time I opened the closet door. And I wore it around the house just like this. And then I was wrapping it around myself as I walked past a mirror and realized, I like this. This look I like. No collar, just open, almost like a double-breasted blazer. I could live with that. But as you see from this button, I actually thought that replacing the buttons would make me like it more. Didn't work. So I'm going to go with this sort of double-breasted blazer look. And here, Taylor's chalk. It's just a little thin wafer of chalk, and it will mark fabric for you, but not permanently. So I'm going to mark right about here, which is, I think, that mark stick, yes. I think that is about where, yes, okay, we got it on the other side. That's about where I want to put one of the buttons that will close it. The other button is going to go on the inside here. So I'm going to have two buttons. I'm not doing buttonholes because this is a sweater. And frankly, cutting into the sweater and then securing the loose threads of the yarn in order to get a secure buttonhole, that's a nightmare in itself. And also it's going to make my buttonhole really big and conspicuous. And what I want for this sweater is small, inconspicuous buttons, obviously small, inconspicuous buttonholes. And some other people might look at this and say, oh no, I love big fancy buttons. We'll take some of these, because I do in fact have more of those, and we'll just put them on there. No, that's not going to do it for me. I want something inconspicuous. So what I'm going to do is stitch one of my buttons right here, and I only need to mark one side, because I will take the measurement running across and up from the bottom and transfer it over here. And the other button will go over here in the same relative position on the inside. And there will be a button loop here and here. So it will just button like this. Now you don't have to put two buttons. You can use a hook and eye on the inside. No one is ever going to see it. But because I have the buttons and it's easy enough to do, I'm just going to do both buttons. So what I need to do at this point is take it off, measure, mark my positions on this side, mirror it on this side, and then there will be a button here, and then little ribbon loops for the closures on either edge, and it should work. By the way, as I was wearing this, I realized there were a couple of other things I didn't like about this. I don't know if you can see, but this hem is curling, and it's curling pretty badly. So I'm going to try to press it down. Hopefully it'll take. Most sweaters have a rather thick band across the wrists and the bottom, very often across the neckline and the front where they button. But this does not. And by the way, this is the reason that other sweaters have a band, because a band will prevent the curling. So that's another thing not to like about this. Also, no pockets. However, I will be able to add pockets if I want to, because there are side seams. So I could pop pockets in there, or I can even put hidden pockets, simply attach them on the inside. But I'm not sure I'm going to do this. I think I'll probably like it well enough once I've turned it into a sort of pseudo double-breasted blazer. So, time to get to work. So, there you go. Now you get a chance to see what I saw when I looked in the mirror when I first put that sweater on. I just did not like the way it looked on me at all, and it was nothing like it looked in the catalog picture. So, now the challenge was to turn this sort of half wrapped around myself into something that was a self-sustaining fashion statement. After all, I can't run around clutching the sweater to make sure it was lying exactly the way it was supposed to on my body, la la la. Either that was going to work or it wasn't. I would have to find a simple way to make that happen without all of my help clutching it, or, well, the sweater just wasn't going to see the great outdoors. So, this is where the buttons came in. And I filmed this for you also because I wanted you to see how I did it. It was a very, very simple process. And I'm not kidding you, start to finish, even with the filming. It took me, and with the ironing, it took me under 15 minutes. So all of the raw film footage that I cut down, and I cut it down to something like 11 minutes. There's only 4 more minutes that ended up on the cutting room floor, so to speak. That's how quick and easy this was. So let's take a look at the rest of it. So, we are over here at the ironing board now, and I have sewn on my buttons. Now, this sewing on a button is something I'm sure you don't need me to teach you how to do, but I put one in the position that I had marked, and actually not exactly the position I had marked. I was supposed to be over 9 inches from the edge and 11 inches from the bottom. However, if you'll take a look, there is a much heavier section of knitting at the 10-inch mark. So knowing that I had a little bit of play, these are approximate measurements because this is a sweater which will stretch or contract very easily. I knew that that extra inch was not going to make that much difference, and I would much rather be able to secure my button against the heavier knitting. Now let me show you the buttons that I used. Now this is called a half ball shank button. This little part here, that's the shank, this right there. And as you can see, the shape is why they call it a half ball. I wanted something very small and discreet. This was perfect. So I then took my measurement from this button and transferred it over to the other half of the sweater. And let's see where we are. That's right here. And this button was stitched on the underside of the sweater because that is going to hold this section, which is going to go closest to my body, whereas this section is going to go over top of it. So that's why this one has to be on the underside. Now, I should probably also mention, because, yeah, we're going to teach you how to sew on a button. I started at the top, left a tail of thread loose, just went under, hooked the needle through that shank, and I did that about 3 or 4 times, and then when I came to the end, remember I've got a loose tail of thread here, I tied it off and then snipped it. Now, I should probably also mention that this, let's see if I can get that up so you can see it. Okay, here we go. This is silk thread. Very strong. Also, it will slip and slide as you sew very easily. One of the things I love about silk thread. And this is old silk thread. As you can see by the wooden spool, you just don't see those anymore. You can pick this stuff up on eBay, on Etsy, yard sales, thrift markets, whatever. And I would strongly suggest that whenever you see a few spools of thread at a flea market, a thrift store, a yard sale, pick them up. They are always dirt cheap and they are remarkably useful. Now this is actually a navy blue color, although it rather looks purple in this light. Again, I'm not too worried about that. The threads are not going to be seen, but that is how I secured the buttons. Very strong thread. Now, next up, we're going to add our button loops. Now, let me start with this, because this is, in fact, the same sort of needle I used to secure the buttons. This is a tapestry needle, and please notice how big, well, let me see. Oh yeah, you can see it just fine here, I think. Notice how big the eyes are. You can really thread a decent chunk of ribbon through that eye. And that is exactly what I've done. I have ribbon here, and this is also silk ribbon. It is navy blue, even though, again, we got some issues with the lighting. But once again, very small. It's not going to be very visible. So that is what I'm making the loop with. So we're going over to the edge of the sweater, and I've made my mark. Again, I measured 11 inches up. I don't have to measure any more than that because it's going to be right on the edge. I have my ribbon threaded through, and we're just going to go under, and we'll pull it out. I want to leave a bit of a tail. See, there we go. Nice little tail. I'm going back up just a little bit away from that, just enough to make sure I am catching plenty of the yarns from the sweater in this. And then I'm going to go back through and when I pull that snug, there's going to be a little tiny bit of ribbon coming across the top. Now I'm going to make my loop. So, coming right back up, basically where I came up before, the same general area. Coming through, so I'm coming through. Now at this point, I want to make sure that I haven't done exactly what I have done, which is twisted the ribbon. I'm going to grab the ribbon and pull these twisty bits right through. And now we have our loop. Now, in order to size the loop, we're just going to take a button. I happen to have a loose button. If you don't, here. We're just going to grab the button over here and wrap the loop around the button. We want this loop to be big enough to catch that button. And we don't want to have to struggle with this. So it needs to be able to slip over the button, but not too much more than that. So I would say right about here is just about right. That's about the size of the loop we want. Now, we're going to go back under. So let's stick that through. We're coming right back up again. And remember our loose tail? We're just going to tie this off. So, and we're done with that. Oh, sorry about that. I was carefully trying to avoid hitting the camera, but it's very close so that you can see this. And then we snip, and then we are done. I'm going to do the same thing on this edge over here, measure up 11 inches. And remember this here, this is what I was complaining about when I had it on. The way this is curling up. As soon as I've secured that loop, we are going to deal with that. Okay, this is a clapper. And what this does is when you press something down, you push with the clapper to try to encourage it to retain that shape. Some people use their hands, but first of all, I'm not sure that's safe when you're dealing with very hot fabric, but also your hands are not as flat as this lovely piece of wood. They are very inexpensive, and frankly, if you care about how well your clothes look after they've been pressed, it's probably a worthwhile investment. So let's see if we are going to be able to press this out. And it sure looks like we are. Yeah. Alrighty. Let's try this edge. And I would say, yes, it worked. However, I have a strong suspicion that I am going to be doing this periodically from now on because I don't think it's going to retain this shape. It's going to want to curl again, and I think it's going to find a way. Nevertheless, I can live with this. So, there you go. This, by the way, is a technique you can use on anything. If you have something that overlaps, Here, like this. I'm wearing a man's sweater, so I got a little confused when I looked down and saw the buttons on the wrong side. If you have something that overlaps and you would like to create a double-breasted look, and that could be for those of us who have lost weight, and the items that we used to strain to button are now way too big, and wouldn't it be nice if we could still wear them and not look like you were playing dress up in mommy's clothing? It's just very simple. All you have to do is figure out where your buttons are going to go, stitch on your buttons, and then stitch on little loops. You don't have to cut buttonholes. Now, a lot of people are very intimidated by buttonholes. And I don't like my machine-stitched buttonholes anywhere near as much as I like my hand-stitched buttonholes, but those are time-consuming. So I can say I understand people saying, eek, buttonholes. I need to go get an attachment for my machine and make my machine do it for me. It doesn't hurt to figure out how to do them by hand yourself, but that's the subject for another video. But using little loop buttonholes, super simple, super easy, and here's the best thing. If you don't like it and you want to go back to the way your garment was before, a pair of scissors, snip, snip, you're done. The way I made the loop buttonholes, it was simply with pieces of ribbon, one cut, and the whole thing will just come out. Well, you'll have to pull it out, but it will come right out. Same thing with the buttons. The way I stitched them, all you have to do is cut one of the threads, and it will just unravel. So I did this with an eye toward redoing it at some future date. Now, in my case, I shouldn't say this because I'm going to jinx myself. Because I've been losing weight lately, it's entirely possible that in a month or two, I may want to tighten those buttons up a little. Just move them so that, instead of closing like this, it closes like this. Could be. On the other hand, if things don't go well, who knows? Maybe instead of having it closed like this, I'm going to want to open it a little. Regardless, I did that to make it as easy as possible for myself in terms of flexibility for the future. What happens if one fine day I want that high-collared look back? I can't think that I will, but what if I do? So that is something that is very easy to do, and keep in mind that you can do this with decorative buttons, you can do it with one button, and just the inner closure with a hook and eye, which frankly is about as easy / difficult as sewing in a button and a little loop closure. So yeah, that's just a matter of personal choice. I chose what I wanted to do simply because I had the ribbon and I have the buttons. I actually have hooks and eyes too, but that would have meant I'd have to go looking for them. So I just did what I did based on convenience. I'm glad that I was able to salvage that sweater so that it wasn't something sitting in the closet taunting me, or something that I had high hopes for but was going to become nothing more than an around-the-house sweater. I have nothing against around-the-house sweaters, but for me, the around-the-house sweater is usually going to be a sweater that I have worn until, it's just really shabby looking, and I don't have anything else I can do with it. It's gotten shabby to the point where I'm not willing to donate it because it's too embarrassing, and I'm reluctant to toss it out altogether, although frankly I should. So that's my around-the-house sweaters, and I'd rather not pull a nice piece out of the closet and say, I'll just wear this around the house, nobody's ever going to see it. So for me, that little bit of effort was well worth it. For you, it might be well worth it also. And if nothing else, at least now you know how to put a little button on with a little button loop so you can save yourself the worry and bother of having to put in a buttonhole. And that one, the button loops I did were done on knitted sweater fabric. If you're doing this on actual woven fabric, you can get a much cleaner, nicer look. Because, of course, all of your edges are crisp and clean. It's woven fabric. A sweater, on the other hand, the thing I love about sweaters is also the thing that makes them difficult to deal with. And that is they have a wonderfully natural, organic look and feel because it's just something that's knitted. It really does have that rustic sort of feel to it. But like I say, you can get the same effect. And I've seen wedding dresses. So we're a far cry from rustic here. I've seen wedding dresses that were finished off with little buttons and little button loops. So it's good to know how to do that. Now you know one way to do it. It's not the only way, but that is what will work on a sweater or some other knitted fabric. All right, before we go, let me just say that we are coming to the end of our giveaway period for the Chanel jacket. And so the suemeangels will be choosing a winner. They will be letting me know who the winner is. I will be getting in touch with her, or possibly him. I mean, it could very well be a man looking for the jacket for someone else, or possibly even himself. I wouldn't mind that. That would be an interesting challenge. We could find a man who wants the jacket. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed for that one. That would be fun. And the next step is going to be getting the information from the winner. I will need to know their sizes and some things like that so the jacket actually fits them. And then we're going to get started on this. And as I've said this before, I was a child the first time I made one of these jackets. So I promise you, it's going to be the easiest sewing project you've ever undertaken. And because I've had a lot of experience since I was a small child, we're going to get into some serious couture techniques. But when I do couture, I do easy couture. I do not like the kind of couture that makes you crazy or adds a huge amount of time to your sewing. No, I want it fast and easy. I want it to look like $1,000,000, and I don't want to have to pay that in either time or money, or certainly not in effort. All right, we are going to take a look at a slideshow on the way out. For those of you who join us for Just Chatting, tonight, 8 o'clock New York City time. For the rest of you, I'm so glad to have you here on the weekends. As I've said before, you are better than therapy for me. Truly you are. And I hope to see you again. So, in the meanwhile, have a terrific day.